The Eternal Night basic lands in Crimson Vow are some of the most unique lands in Magic the Gathering, but did you know that the Crimson Vow basic lands that aren't the Eternal Night frame, there is always a carriage depicted traveling to the wedding? It's a cool stylistic choice showing that vampires from all over Innistrad were on their way to join the festivities. Merch, like, comment, subscribe. Hello, we are back with episode 8 of Back to Basics, a show where I take EDH commanders and try to find the perfect basic lands to fit them. I love seeing someone sit down with some beautiful basic lands, but something I love even more is seeing how well those lands match their commanders. One quick note before we begin. I like to give the artists credit for their artworks, but I may not pronounce their names perfectly. I'll try my best, but please forgive me and correct me if that ever happens. First on the list, we've got Toralf, God of Fury, another one of those beautiful Kaldheim commanders. A thing that is fairly well known among collectors is the value of the color violet in MTG card arts. When it comes to cards that will look good in foil, violet tones really accentuate the bright and prismatic colors that the foiling produces in the artwork. So while I love foiling in general, I'd especially recommend getting a full foil playset of this mountain from Theros Beyond Death, illustrated by Sam Burley, that really focuses on that matching indigo to violet gradient. Or possibly this mountain from M20, illustrated by Andreas Rocha, that also has the notes of that violet in it that would look gorgeous in multiples. But for the Kaldheim showcase artwork of Toralf, we will have to take a different approach. With such a monochromatic aesthetic, there are really only blacks, whites, and reds to interpret in this artwork, which really helped focus the choices of matching basics. For instance, this mountain from the Crushing Brutality of Basic Land's Secret Lair that matches the hard rock vibe and the blood red colors almost perfectly. Or for a more budget option, you could go with this mountain from Portal, illustrated by Brian Durfee, that matches the extraordinarily strong contrast very well. Next up, we've got Atla Palani Nest Tender from Commander 2019. She is one of those commanders whose playstyle matches her artwork almost to a T, where the subject of the artwork is focusing her attention to the eggs that she summons in-game. Initially, the idea of eggs seemed like a daunting theme to try to match up, but I think I found it. In the Unfinity Basic Lands illustrated by Adam Paquette. All of these basic lands emphasize eggs, or have strong circular shapes in them, which fits Atla's playstyle uniquely well. However, if you wanted to go by just strictly color matching, you could focus on the bright impressionistic scenery and use of bright reds and greens to bring out Atla's form from her background. So check out this forest from the dual decks Knights vs. Dragons, illustrated by Scott Bailey, and this plains from Lorwyn, and this mountain from Lorwyn, both designed by Larry McDougall, which I feel do a good job of highlighting the impressionistic and airy composition while also using bright colors for contrast. On the other side of the color spectrum, let's take a look at Old Rutstein, who brings an entirely different aesthetic vibe. His dark and intimidating presence is silhouetted against a brighter background of light blues to help increase his shady and sketchy looking appearance. In addition, there is the dim yellows emanating from his lamp to consider when looking into color matching. So after doing a bit of digging, I went with this forest from Shadows over Innistrad, illustrated by Andreas Rocha, that matches the plane and its scenery very well of a chokingly dark and twisted forest, while also having the blues and yellows in the same artwork. And then we pair it with this swamp from the premium deck series Graveborn, that matches those same color notes as well. Another pairing would be to focus on the greens present in the artwork as well, and focus on the wiry and dense foliage in the background. So check out this swamp from M14, illustrated by Andreas Rocha, and this forest from Zendikar, illustrated by Young Park, that can really accentuate the feeling of being all alone in an endlessly dark jungle. Next up, a fan favorite, Omnath Locus of Rage. The thing I found interesting was that his color stylings emphasized more the pale green of his ethereal shape, rather than focusing on the red fire that is emanating from his hands. Making the fire colors recede into the background for favor of pale greens is no small task. But for his lore, I went with this pairing from the Plane of Zendikar, this mountain from Battle for Zendikar illustrated by Sam Burley, and this forest illustrated by Véronique Magnaud, that both focus on Omnath's plane of origin while also focusing on the slanted Dutch angle of his artwork as well. But if you wanted to go for a more classic approach, I couldn't help but try to match the colors as best as I could. So I went with this forest from Onslaught, illustrated by John Matson, to match the general shape and coloring of Omnath's body, and this mountain from Tempest, illustrated by Mark Poole, to match the coloring and sharpness of Omnath's hands. I feel like it matches well. And finally, we have Teysa Karlov, an elegantly illustrated Orzhov commander. If you look at her artwork, you'll notice how much the scene is bathed in a sun-washed red tone, coming from the rose window and reflecting off the pillars and her armor. It's more red than usually seen for just a black and white commander, while not detracting from the Orzhov Guild's very distinct color and aesthetic styling. So I went with those color matching restrictions and landed on 2 different land pairings. Starting off with this swamp from 5th edition, illustrated by Andrew Robinson, and this plains from Urza Saga, illustrated by Rob Alexander. The use of such starkly colored sunset artworks really emphasizes those reds, and makes the commander feel unique from other commanders within those color identities. For another, more lore-based pairing, I made sure to look for land arts that have urban scenes in them that match her city vibe. I wasn't able to find any swamps from the Plain of Ravnica that had city aspects in them while also focusing on the sunset color schemes, but I was able to find this swamp from Amonkhet, illustrated by Titus Lunter, that I believe matches it very well. And I matched it with this plains from Return to Ravnica, illustrated by Adam Paquette, that really nails the sunset aesthetic to near perfect quality. But there you have it. 5 more commanders, sorted for which basic lands I think match them best. But I want to see what you think. Tell me which commanders you'd like me to try and pick up basic lands for. Comment below and let me know, and have a great day.